О, Господи, что происходит? Они его арестовали.
Nos tenemos que situar en Bariloche, Sole, para plantear una historia que parece extraída de una realidad paralela. Una historia que mezcla una secta...
De Konstantin Rudnev, de 57 años. Ya te cuento con eso, hago solamente un paréntesis. Líder de la secta rusa.
Vinculado con esta mafia rusa de trata de personas, de abuso sexual respecto de las mujeres sometidas dentro de esta misma organización.
По подозрению в торговле людьми задержан 57-летний Константин Руднев. Он основатель самой опасной тоталитарной секты Ашрам Шамбалы, которая запрещена в России.
In one of Argentina's toughest prisons, in the city of Bariloche, 58-year-old Konstantin Rudnev has spent months behind bars. To the authorities of three nations, he is a dangerous criminal whose influence must be suppressed. To his supporters, he is a fearless defender of free thought. Today, we reveal the real story about a man who dedicated his life to seeking the truth and helping others. From early childhood, Konstantin Rudnev stood out from his peers. By the age of 5, he was already searching for answers to life's most profound questions: the purpose of existence, the nature of God, and the meaning of inner freedom. His perspective on life defied conventional frameworks, creating a rift between him and the world around him. Even his mother struggled to accept the unusual path he had chosen. As a young man, Konstantin began hosting talks that attracted those searching for their spiritual paths. Rudnev emphasized the importance of self-discovery, meditation, and inner harmony. While his ideas seemed strange to many, they resonated deeply with those seeking the truth. Konstantin's candor extended beyond just his spiritual philosophy. Konstantin's unwavering stance against the Russian authorities was evident in his firm rejection of any form of manipulation. He openly criticized the government's actions and predicted the tragic consequences of Vladimir Putin's rule. Long before it happened, he foresaw that war would be inevitable and warned that nuclear weapons might eventually be used. I'll poison them. We've lost the most precious thing we have. I hate this world. His outspoken political stance and active spiritual work quickly gained widespread popularity, attracting the attention of the authorities. For several years, law enforcement agencies kept Konstantin under close surveillance. His lengthy history of activities became the focus of an extensive investigation, during which hundreds of interrogations were conducted and testimonies from thousands of individuals were gathered. However, no direct evidence, solid proof, or a single witness willing to testify against him could be found. Everything pointed to one conclusion: Konstantin had harmed no one. The only basis for opening a case was statements from a few parents who claimed their already adult children had left home because of Konstantin. These questionable testimonies served as the formal foundation for the charges. Years later, authorities would revisit these accusations to bolster their influence over the legal proceedings. A massive media campaign was launched against Rudnev. His image was deliberately distorted, branded as a mad leader of a destructive cult, and accused of fabricating stories about recruitment and property seizures. In various publications, he was portrayed as a tyrant, a false guru, and even a sexual predator, anything to fully discredit his name and drive followers away. The goal was clear: to strip him of public support and undermine people's trust in his words and ideas. Like any authoritarian regime, the government fears informal opposition and independent voices above all, voices capable of attracting attention and inspiring others. Thus, the media created the image of Russia's most dangerous cult. However, this didn't deter Konstantin from continuing his work. After years of surveillance, he was ultimately arrested in a high-profile operation in 2010. Yet behind the dramatic scenes of the special operation, no substantial evidence was ever uncovered. Authorities staged a forceful raid on the house where Konstantin was staying, using blatant provocation with the specific intent of planting illegal drugs. This tactic is often employed by security forces to fabricate charges and eliminate targets without question. The arrest procedure violated clear legal norms, raising immediate public suspicion about the legitimacy of their actions. The subsequent trial was particularly egregious, as Konstantin faced 3 serious charges: founding an organization that allegedly infringed on citizens' rights, rape, and drug use. At the time of his arrest, a small packet containing 5 grams of drugs was allegedly discovered. However, the packet bore none of Konstantin's fingerprints, and medical examinations found no trace of drug use in his blood or hair. The initial claim of personal use was quickly reclassified as intent to distribute, which appears to be a common fabrication tactic. The next charge involved a questionable allegation regarding the rape of a woman who reported the incident 2 years after it allegedly occurred. Notably, her report came immediately after a conversation with investigators, to whom she voiced her accusations in exchange for a promised financial reward. Her testimony was filled with contradictions. Official documents revealed that she had initiated contact and later voluntarily resumed a relationship with Konstantin. The prosecution's case rested on a questionable argument that the woman was legally incapacitated, a claim that contradicted both logic and the established facts of the case. Nevertheless, the court sided with the prosecution, overlooking the glaring inconsistencies in her motives, behavior, and statements. The third charge of violating rights was also unsubstantiated. There was not a single real victim, nor evidence of extortion. The main evidence consisted of old complaints from parents of adult children, none of whom had been held against their will. Those who had left their families were of legal age and testified in court that they were seeking freedom, not being coerced. Each individual charge collapsed upon examination, yet collectively, they painted the narrative that the authorities needed: a justification for a lengthy prison sentence and the complete destruction of reputation. This is a textbook example of how the repressive system in Russia fabricates criminal cases against individuals deemed inconvenient, turning baseless accusations into sensational headlines. The participants in the trial described the court proceedings as a farce. Despite the lack of actual victims and any evidence of guilt on the other charges, Konstantin was sentenced to 11 years in prison, the cost of having free thought. Accepting his fate with dignity, he served the full term of his sentence in a high-security prison under the harsh conditions of Siberia. During his imprisonment, the once strong man was reduced to a frail figure, suffering from serious health issues, including a spinal hernia and a host of chronic illnesses. After his release from prison, Konstantin made the decision to leave Russia for good, knowing that the persecution he faced in his homeland would never truly end. Renouncing all public activity and political criticism, he sought only one thing: harmony with the world and nature, a pursuit he had always encouraged others to embrace. In his quest for inner balance and to regain his life energy, Konstantin turned to the Montenegrin authorities with an official request for political asylum. He hoped to find the long-awaited peace among the majestic mountains of the Montenegrin resort. Picturesque landscapes, pure air, and a soothing atmosphere seemed like the perfect place for meditation, walks, and communion with nature. However, the illusion of safety quickly dissolved. The local media, having uncovered the identity of the recent arrival, launched a harassment campaign based solely on information from Russian sources. Online publications became the primary basis for initiating new persecutions. Despite a series of arrests and interrogations that produced no evidence of Konstantin's unlawful activities, the Montenegrin mass media began to echo the false Russian reports, thus reinforcing the negative portrayal of him as a dangerous sectarian. Recognizing that the situation was repeating itself, Konstantin decided once again to leave the place that had become unsafe. The story of Konstantin Rudnev is not just a personal tragedy. It is a warning about how easily one can become a victim of a system where truth is replaced by lies and dissent is equated with crime. And it does not matter in which country you live. After being forced to leave Montenegro, Konstantin sought temporary refuge in Argentina. He settled in the resort town of Bariloche, often referred to as the Argentine Switzerland, hoping to find peace and regain his strength. in a secluded atmosphere. However, in March 2025, a new ordeal awaited him. According to information from reliable sources, Konstantin was under surveillance by local law enforcement agencies shortly after. The prosecutor's office closely monitored him, believing they would eventually find compromising evidence against him, and were simply waiting for the right opportunity to make an arrest. The situation took a dramatic turn when the police became aware of a Russian citizen who was at a maternity hospital. The overview of what ensued. A Russian citizen, who intended to give birth in Argentina like many other Russian women, arrived in the country in the late stages of her pregnancy. During her childbirth at a medical facility, certain suspicions arose, prompting the involvement of law enforcement agencies. They seized this incident as a reason to arrest Konstantin. Despite apparent inconsistencies in the case, a criminal investigation was initiated, with a young woman portrayed as the alleged victim. The media quickly responded to the news. Argentine outlets began actively quoting Russian publications that contained highly questionable information about Konstantin. This dubious content had been generated over the years by various sources, including governmental and entertainment media. As a result, a new wave of defamation and negative articles targeted Konstantin, ultimately leading to his imprisonment without any solid evidence of guilt. The situation took an unexpected turn when the supposed victim made an official statement before prosecutors, the judge, and lawyers. She categorically denied any acquaintance with Konstantin and declared that she was a victim solely of the actions of the Argentine authorities, who had been putting pressure on her for several months. The young woman also released a video recording that corroborated her claims.
Когда я родила, сразу же после родов, еще не успев отойти от операции, я осталась совершенно одна. Меня окружили полицейские, забрали телефон, у меня не было средств связи с моей семьей, с моими друзьями. Я не могла рассказать о том, что со мной происходит, где я нахожусь, чтобы они мне помогли. Я оказалась в полной изоляции. Мне нельзя было выходить на улицу, подышать свежим воздухом. Мне постоянно задавали вопросы, на которые я не могла в тот момент внятно ответить. Задавали вопросы одни и те же. Говорили, что я являюсь жертвой ситуации, что они считают меня жертвой некого человека, которого я не знаю. Константин Руднев говорил, что я являюсь его жертвой, но я его никогда не видела, я с ним не знакома, никогда с ним лично не контактировала.
At present, the woman is in Russia, and neither her health nor her child's health is at risk. Despite the lack of evidence for guilt, Konstantin has remained in custody for 6 months. The Argentine authorities, having publicly announced the capture of an international criminal, found themselves in a difficult position, since Konstantin's release could cast doubt on the competence of their law enforcement. What then is Konstantin's true guilt? Simply that he thought independently, spoke the truth, and guided others in finding their path.
Основное – это отбросить воображение, перестать жить ради воображения, для лжи, для иллюзий, для осуществления каких-то навязанных нам целей.
The main thing is to discard imagination, to stop living for imagination, for lies, for illusions, for the fulfillment of some imposed goals. His story is the tragedy of a man who became the victim of a system incapable of admitting its own mistakes. The path of a spiritual seeker turned into the path of a prisoner of conscience. Today, Konstantin Rudnev is almost 60. His body suffers from severe chronic illnesses, many of which require ongoing treatment. Yet instead of being in a hospital, he resides in a cold prison cell. Instead of doctors, he faces prosecutors who are slowly leading him towards death. These individuals have no regard for law or justice. Their interests lie in their careers and achieving sensational headlines. They are not judging a man, but condemning the image of a monster they constructed. Justice has not yet been served in this story. The court has become an instrument of reprisal and the prosecutors executioners. The world adds another name to the long list of lives destroyed for daring to think differently. And while a man who has harmed no one languishes in his cell, the system pretends to uphold the law. In truth, it serves only its own thirst for power and glory.
Помог попавший эго достичь прозрачности святой. В себе наблюдаю небо, а в небе вижу образ свой.
In those eyes, which had always radiated warmth and light, now lies a silent pain and weariness. Weakness pierces every cell of his body, and pain has become a constant companion, as if the weight of the entire world rests on his shoulders. Yet even in such a state, his soul remains bright and pure. His heart, despite all the blows of life, continues to beat in a rhythm of compassion and love for others. And in this lies his greatest tragedy. To suffer in this world for kindness, where this quality is becoming ever rarer and more precious. Each chapter reveals a new twist in the dramatic fate of Konstantin Rudnev, with sensational details hidden from prying eyes. The most shocking revelations are still to come.